systematic study of Bhagavad Gita. So Simeshwar Prabhu requested that we read in sequence. So today is 13.16. Now, I trust you can all see my screen and the audio is also correct.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So I'm now going to Veda base. Bhagavad Gita 13, chapter 13, shloka 16. Bahirantascha bhutanam acharam charam evacha sukshmatvat tad avikyam durastham chantike chachat. Bahirantascha bhutanam acharam charam evacha sukshmatvat tad avikyam durastham chantike chatat. Bahirantascha bhutanam acharam charam evacha sukshmatvat tad avigneyam durastam chantike chatat. Is any Prabhuji or Mataji would like to please chant?
Bahir antasya bhutanam archanam charam evacha sukha kshamatva tad avinyatnyam duva stama chatuschata.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Anyone else?
Bahirantascha bhutanam acharam charameva cha sukshmatvat vidneyam durastham chantike chatat.
Thank you, Mataji. Anyone else would like to read?
Bahirantascha bhutanam acharam charam evacha sukshmatvat tad avijnanam durastam shantika yachat.
Thank you, Savita. So we'll read the synonyms, translation, and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Synonyms: Bahi, outside; Anta, inside; Cha, also; Bhutanam, of all living entities; Acharam, not moving; Charam, moving; Eva, also; Cha, and; Sukshmatat, on account of being subtle; Tat, that; Avijneyam, unknowable; Durastham, far away; Cha, also; Antike, near; Cha, and; Tat, that. Translation: the Supreme Truth exists outside and inside of all living beings, the moving and the non-moving. Because he is subtle, he is beyond the power of the material senses to see or to know. Although far, far away, he is also near to all. Purport: in Vedic literature, we understand that Narayana, the Supreme Person, is residing both outside and inside of every living entity. He is present in both the spiritual and material worlds. Although he is far, far away, he is still near to us. These are the statements of Vedic literature. Asino duram rajati shayano yati sarvatah. Katha Upanishad 1.2.21. And because he is always engaged in transcendental bliss, we cannot understand how he is enjoying his full opulence. We cannot see or understand with these material senses. Therefore, in the Vedic language, it is said that to understand him, a material mind and senses cannot act. But one who has purified his mind and senses by practicing Krishna consciousness in devotional service can see him constantly. It is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita that the devotee who has developed love for the Supreme God can see him always without cessation. And it is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 11.54 that he can be seen and understood only by devotional service. Bhaktya-tvananya shakya. Hare Krishna. So today's learning focus, we'll do a quick revision of chapter 13. There are 5 sections. This comes in the 3rd section. So understanding bhakti and jnana. So here it's talking about, the knowledge. So, and how that is connected to bhakti. And then today's specific text 13.16, what the theme is, it's talking about the super soul, and the super soul is all reconciling. We all know this meaning of the word reconcile, but then we'll understand it in context to what we sadhakas are trying to do and what's the connection with super soul. And then, of course, a group discussion, though it is put as item number 3. Any questions, any comments, corrections, as the class goes on, please voice it. And as usual, my humble obeisances to His Grace Gauranga Priya Prabhu. He is the person who has written these Bhagavad Gita notes, which I often refer to while preparing for the class. So before we start the class, the tradition, is to say the Mangalacharan prayers. This is, we seek the blessings of the Acharyas and the Guru Parampara, that whatever we speak should be in line with the Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Om Agnan Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadahmayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Satvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishnabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padai Krishna Preshthai Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedant Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Kauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyate Shatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So let's quickly jump into this overview of Jnana Yoga, chapter 13, and the connection between bhakti and jnana. Bhakti, is loving devotional service, and jnana is knowledge. So what's that connection between these two? So section 1, it's these 6 questions Arjuna has. And section 2, Krishna explains the process of knowledge and liberation. Here we are at section 3, where Krishna is explaining the object of knowledge. So what is the object of knowledge? So it will start from this chapter onwards. The object of knowledge is the super soul. That's the ultimate object of knowledge. So when we realize ourselves, we realize the super soul. That's the whole idea of this jnana. And then it carries on to section 4, where then Krishna explains Prakriti, this entire manifestation, Purusha, and their union. And basically, anyone who understands this attains liberation. And then finally, section 5 is the vision of knowledge. And what's the vision of knowledge? Purpose is so that we can have a distinction between this body, its owner, the super soul, and recognizing the process of liberation. That is the supreme goal, which is to go back to Godhead, to get reunited in our original position. So this is the synopsis of chapter 13, Jnana Yoga. Now, very quickly, connection between bhakti and jnana. So we understand that, bhakti yoga, in the yoga ladder, from the bottommost karma to the highest bhakti, how is it that bhakti is coming before in the Bhagavad Gita? Sequentially, it should come after jnana. But then here we'll understand why it is so. So he promises, Krishna, that his devotees, those who are surrendered to him, he takes them out from the cycle of birth and death. So this time we've got a opportunity to get the human form of life. And if utilized properly, we can just go away from this circle of birth and death. Otherwise, you're caught based on a karma. Either we'll go to the higher form of life, higher destinations like the heavenly kingdoms, or you could also go to the lower planetary systems, or we could stay here on Mother Earth. And it's not necessary that we would get a human form. Based on whatever activities that we have performed, any one of the 8.4 million forms, bodies, external bodies, is what our jiva will occupy. So chapters 13 to 18 supplies the philosophical knowledge, the basis necessary so that we can get out of this material entanglement. Now, the last section is called the Jnana section, but actually the entire Bhagavad Gita is solely focused on bhakti itself. So first 6 chapters talks about karma yoga, how one can, by just doing his work, dovetail everything, the fruits, the results of one work to Krishna. That's how one can gradually get bhakti. Then the middle 6 chapters is bhakti itself. And then finally, the last is how to achieve bhakti through knowledge, where we are at. So jnana, what it does is the knowledge will help us get detached from whatever we are currently doing. So currently we're all trapped in this clutches of Maya. And we're forced to act in a certain way. You hear people say, "Arey uska nature aisa hai, it is his nature." Some people are very happy-go-lucky. Some people are brooding. Some people are all the time finding faults in others. Some people are very short-tempered. Some people are easygoing. We say it is the nature. But actually, if you understand this, the 3 modes of material nature, we are like puppets on a string. And Maya is, manipulating this, different time, places, circumstances. Any one of this string, which is mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance, is getting more dominant, and we are behaving accordingly. So how to basically cut those strings and get attached to Krishna? Because the soul cannot remain inactive. The soul is an active principle. We are active entities. It's fully aware, right? Chitta. It cannot remain inactive. So it has to do something. So if we get detached from Maya, we have to get attached to something. So a higher taste attached to Krishna. And when we get this knowledge, how to do it, then that knowledge becomes a part of devotional. So getting that knowledge also is bhakti, because that knowledge is will be used in serving Krishna. Now, without bhakti, jnana and karma are both useless. Can anyone tell me why jnana and karma are both useless in absence of bhakti? Question to the class, please. Hare Krishna. Why is karma and jnana useless in absence of bhakti? So I'll give you a clue. Bhakti is loving devotional service to Krishna. Karma is whatever activities we perform. These activities are all centered around the self, I, me, myself, and mine. And jnana, knowledge, even that knowledge is basically around I, me, myself, mine. So why is it useless? Please don't feel shy. Please don't think that you may give a wrong answer.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji Dhanvats. What
Hare Krishna Shankarshan Prabhu.
I feel that because bhakti is a higher principle, it's the goal. And if we just are stuck at the jnana level or the karma level, like we will be still in the material world, because for every action there will be a reaction in the case of karma, right? So we are still stuck there and there. We cannot rise higher. And same thing with jnana, like we are just speculating, but we are not reaching to a point. Basically, it is just like without a radar, without a goal, we are just hanging out there. Maybe that's the best thing I can understand, Prabhu. But that's a good question. Thank you.
Excellent. Perfect answer. So karma, action, reaction, and this body is temporary, soul is eternal. So whatever reactions that we're getting, good or bad, you'll get an appropriate body to enjoy or suffer the result. And as Sankarshan Prabhu mentioned, jnana, all the speculation, oh, perhaps like this, maybe like that, this is what, this is this. You don't have anything factual, trial and error, and you're never really getting what is truth. We're just living in a falsehood, so to say. Jnana, just for the sake of knowledge. Actually, I think it was Aristotle or some great philosopher. Knowledge is meant for action, otherwise it is useless. Just getting this knowledge, speculative, and there are people, they are the professor variety. They just like to think, overthink, and wo bolte na, paralysis by analysis. So it is useless because it will further trap us. It's not moving. It's something like you're running in the same place. Okay, great. You go to the gym, you go to the treadmill, you run, you'll burn some calories, good for your health, good for your heart, the cardio exercise, good for your body. It will release whatever those endorphins and all that, which will also be good for a sense of feeling good for a certain time. But all bodily. What happens? This body is going to die today, tomorrow, whenever. Then what happens to your soul? Again, he's caught. And if you're not a human being, then you're probably running around in the jungle. You could be a deer, a lion is chasing you. Again, same thing. It really does nothing. It doesn't move the needle, as they say. So when it is connected with bhakti, when it is dovetailed with bhakti, it becomes an act of devotional service. And devotional service is always a karma. Always a karma. There is no karma involved in devotional service. And a person who is karma free naturally cuts those strings, and you're not trapped in this circle of birth and death. Thank you. Thank you, Sankarshan Prabhu, for that. So this is another reason why it comes in the middle. So that when it is a middle, just look at it, visualize a Venn diagram, that on this side there's karma, and there is, interfaced with bhakti, and on that side there is jnana, and that is also interfaced with bhakti. So bhakti brings karma, action and knowledge together. So as Aristotle said, that knowledge without action is useless, but you could have knowledge and still be doing action and it will still be useless. But when bhakti comes, everything is dovetailed. And that's the whole process of Krishna consciousness. Now let's see this. It says that the super soul is all reconciling. That is today's text. Now, if you see the Oxford Dictionary, reconcile means restore friendly relations between, or it also can mean cause to coexist in harmony. In harmony. Currently, we are out of whack. Out of whack meaning that we are not in our original constitutional position. Constitutional position is that Jivere Swarupa Hoy. You'll all know that, right? From Chaitanya Charitamrita, where it describes our essence, that Swarup. is to be serving Krishna. The soul is always serving. Always, it's action. Remember, we spoke about it. It's the active principle. It's always performing activity. And being part and parcel of the whole, Krishna, it is meant to serve the whole. That's the natural position. But what has happened is that we don't want to serve Krishna, we want to serve ourselves. That's the disconnect. So the super soul is all reconciling, meaning to say that it can bring in harmony. The soul and Krishna, it can bring in harmony. Now, this is another one which is in accounts and finance. If someone does accounts, reconciliation, if you've done that, you'll have some idea. Make one account consistent with the other, especially by allowing for transactions begun but not yet complete. Very important, very significant to our sadhana. Make it consistent for something which has begun, the transaction has begun. Somehow or the other, we have the good fortune to get connected with Krishna consciousness, with bhakti, and that spark is ignited. So it has begun, but it is not yet completed. So how can there be this consistency? How is it that we will not divert and fall off from that? So when we understand that object of knowledge, super soul, that will help us, all the transactions, whatever we are doing, correct? Take it through its completion. And that completion is when we leave this body, whenever that may be, we are back to Godhead in our original constitutional state. So I found this meaning very, very significant, though it may seem mundane, but when applied to our Krishna conscious practices, it made so much sense that the soul is all, super soul is all reconciling. So what this we can understand is, first is that the supreme truth is outside and inside. Now, Shastras are such that it is mind-boggling, mind-bending. On one end, it may say something. On the other end, it may say exactly the opposite. For those of you who attended Romapad Maharaj's wonderful Japa retreat, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Friday evening and Saturday all day, Sunday all day, there were such gems of realization Maharaj shared, as well as from the acharyas, from the shastras, and it definitely has raised the quality of that japa. Anyway, we'll talk about it later. So over there it was mentioned that bhakti lata bij, correct? What is that? Brahmande brahmite kona bhagyavana jiva Guru Krishna prasade pai bhakti lata bija. A person who has traveled through this entire cosmic creation, upper planetary systems, lower planetary systems, lifetime over lifetime, traveling up and down, correct? The most fortunate one, not even those living in Brahmalok and Satyalok, the most fortunate ones are those, Guru Krishna prasade pai, bhakti lata bija. The mercy of Krishna coming through the Guru, he gets that bhakti lata. Bhakti lata is like a lata is a creeper. The creeper of bhakti, it is sown in his heart by coming in contact with that. So the question is, if you're part and parcel of Krishna, then we are naturally inclined to be serving Krishna, and service to Krishna is bhakti. That's all there is. Bhakti is devotional, loving, devotional service to Krishna. So something which is already ours, how is it that that same thing can be put in us? It seems to be a disconnect. So there are these two schools of thought, but it could be very nicely explained, as Romapad Maharaj said, like the table. It's made of wood. Wood has the propensity to burn in it, but it won't just spontaneously combust or catch fire. It will catch fire only when there is the other fire which comes in contact with it, holds it on for a while, and then it ignites. So same way, that propensity to love Krishna is already there within us, but it has been covered by all this conditioning that we have. And when that Guru, the mercy of the Guru, it comes in contact, that's when that spark ignites and it becomes a blazing fire. Now, blazing fire is left up to us. Guru can supply the fuel. It's up to us now to fan the flames and nicely protect it. So that way we can understand, though there are different, it may seem to be contradictory, it's not. Everything is in alignment. Like Hari Kishore Prabhu said, scriptures, his Guru Maharaj told that scriptures are not text, they're context. And to understand this context, we need a bona fide authority. Someone who's coming in a disciplic succession, someone who will be able to present as it is. Now here it says that the supreme truth is outside and inside of everything. Present in spiritual world, present in material world. Supreme truth, we know the supreme personality of Godhead. Godhead is the absolute truth. The absolute truth, supreme truth, is Krishna, correct? He's within and he's also outside of everything. How is it possible? Very simple, very, very simple. Look at our own body, for example. There is space in our body, correct? There is space in our body. There's space in the atoms of our body. There's space between the subatomic particles in our body. Now, that space is also there outside. We can see the ether. There's all space outside. So there is something outside and there is something inside. Another example is water. There is water outside us and there is water inside us also. So similarly, here the supreme truth is outside of everything and inside of everything also. And now he is so subtle. We can understand the skin, correct? These 5 senses, these are gross. Something that we can touch, feel, smell, see, hear. That's gross. And then more subtle than it is mind. We can't see mind. We can't touch, feel, taste the mind. But we can understand its effects through the action that it makes the body do. Then there is the brain. There is the physical brain. But then the thought. Can you see a thought? No. But it exists, right? So even more subtle than that is Krishna. And as such, he's beyond these gross material senses. How can we see and know him? We can't. It's impossible. It's as though telling the ear to taste. It's not absolute. The ear is only meant to listen, that sound, correct? And that too imperfectly. As you grow older, your sense of hearing diminishes or your eyesight gets weaker and even the taste buds become dull and whatever, so on and so forth. So he's beyond all these material senses. How can he be realized? By purifying the same material senses that we have. That's the beauty. That is his mercy. Something which is imperfect can be understood, can understand the perfect. Something which is infinitesimal can understand the infinite. That is mercy. Long back, I had asked a pastor from the Christian faith. When we were in school, we were taught by the Catholic priests. So that priest had said, how can the infinite be understood by the infinitesimal? Impossible. It's not. And that question always remained with me. And I asked another person I had the opportunity to meet from a different faith. And she said, yes, it is possible. Why not? Through his mercy, you and I have limitations, but he has no limitation. And you know that story of that cobbler and the Brahmana. Narad Muni was coming and he told, oh, when you go to Vaikuntha, please offer my pranam to Lord Vishnu. This Brahmana was very learned in the Shastras, doing all his vidhi, everything perfectly. And this poor cobbler sitting under a tree, singing glories of Vishnu and handling footwear, which is a unclean object. So when Narad came back, he asked him, oh, did you meet? The Brahmana asked him, did you meet the Lord Vishnu? He said, yes, I did. So am I going back to heaven? So he, am I going back to heaven? So Narada smiled. And then he asked him, what was Vishnu doing? So he's saying, oh, Vishnu, he was pulling an elephant through the eye of a needle. Think about it, okay? Now, logically, it seems nonsensical. So he's the Brahmana. What nonsense are you talking? How can an elephant go through the eye of a needle? So Narad said, you got your reply, whether you're going to heaven or no. Then the mochi, he went a little bit ahead. There's the mochi, the cobbler. So the cobbler asked, what was my dear Lord doing? So he said, Narad said he was pulling an elephant through the eye of a needle. The cobbler got so happy, his heart burst with joy. He's saying, just see how wonderful my Lord is. So Narad says, aren't you surprised or astonished that elephant through the eye of a needle? He says, no, this banyan tree that I'm sitting under, it comes through this little seed. In this little seed, this whole banyan tree is there. This whole banyan tree is there. So what is impossible for my Lord? Nothing is impossible. So this is understanding. This is realization, where we put all our material logic, all whatever we have learned to be true, all whatever we've learned to be factual. It doesn't work when it comes to understanding the absolute, because we're only relative. So the same senses can be purified by the process of Krishna consciousness. So the sadhana that we're doing is leveraging these imperfect senses to understand the perfect. The perfect person, perfection can be understood only through this process of Krishna consciousness, or in other words, bhakti. So Brahma Samhita tells us how. Premanjana charita bhakti vilochanena santa sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti yam shama sundaram achanta guna sarupam govindam adi purusham tam bhajami. Those whose eyes are anointed by love. You know, anointment, they put that, Mataji sometimes put makeup, or there is that thing called kajal, that black color thing they put in the eye. So it's a poetic description, someone whose eyes are anointed with love for Krishna. When that happens, you're constantly seeing Krishna in you. You're actually seeing Krishna. Not, we also come to the temple and we see the deity. My Guru Maharaj says we go to the temple to see the deity and it gives us pleasure. Ah, how beautiful. Wow, look at Krishna's hip, the Shyam Sundar bending Tribhanga form. Oh, Radharani is looking so pretty. And this, you know, it gives pleasure to our senses. But when we stand in front of the deity, we have to see how we could give pleasure to them. After all, we are servants. They are not for our enjoyment. We are for their enjoyment. So, Brahmat Samhita tells us how we can get this, how we can develop that love for God. And that love for God comes through the process of bhakti. Initially, we do it as a discipline, the ABCDs that we're doing. And by remaining focused, by remaining steady, by doing it frequently in the company of like-minded people under the guidance of bona fide authority, slowly that spark becomes into a flame, and then it becomes a raging fire. And that's how, you know, that love which you already have is spontaneously awakened. Then whatever we do is not as a discipline. It's not that we have to do it. It comes to a stage where we want to do it. It's not that when I finish my 16 rounds of my japa, I breathe a sigh of relief. Ah, today I was able to keep my promise to Guru Maharaj. It won't be relief when I put my japa down. We'll have a sense of despondency. Ah, I have to do some other work. I would rather be doing japa. We'd want to do more and more. So this is what our Krishna consciousness does it. And the whole process starts by hearing. As they say, hearing is another form of seeing. So this transcendental source, which is nothing but coming down from the Shabda Praman, coming down from the bona fide authorities, what they're speaking. They're not putting any concoction of their own. So, Prabhu's, Mataji's, this was a descriptor of today's text. Such a nice thing, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, don't try to see God. Work in such a way that God will see you. How do we work? Our work should be selfless. Sometimes when we do seva, we want recognition. Maybe in a subtle way, maybe in a humble bragging way. Oh, you know, Prabhuji, Ekadashi, I do Nirjal. My Guru Maharaj says it's better to feed your belly than to feed your ego. Guru Maharaj also says that if we have to talk about what all we do, it takes away whatever are the pious credits one may accrue. It's like completely pouring water over that flame. We shouldn't be blowing our own trumpet. But okay, Jayadvaita Maharaj says we are conditioned. It's better to show off and do devotional service than not do bhakti at all. So, rather than being, I want to see God, like Savita's sister's husband always had this, Are mala dev bagaiche. I want to see God, I want to see God, I want to see God. Like, all the time, I want to see God, mala dev, I want to see God in Marathi. I want to see God, I want to see God. So Savita just asked him a simple question. Okay, fine. Just for a moment, imagine that you've seen God. Okay, God is sitting here in front of you. Then what? He got totally befuddled, confused. He was at a loss of words. His jaw just mouth fell open. Like he didn't have an answer. All this while he was, I want to see God, I want to see God. Okay, now that you've seen God, you met God, God is sakshat present in front of you. Now what? No idea. No idea. But for a sadhaka, you exactly know what you have to do. What will you do? Question to the Sangha, what will you do when you are in presence of God? Sakshat, what will you do? Anyone? I'm sure you won't keep quiet as you're doing now. Please, let's make this interactive. Because when there's a group discussion, many thoughts come out, not just the speakers, many realizations. So, what would you do? You're in Mahaprabhu's presence.
Prabhuji, that was just a nice question and a nice class. What we do is what we do in the temple. We feel happy when we are doing Aarti of the Lord, right? So that's the first thing we'll do. The Lord is there, we do his Aarti. First with the incense, we welcome him, and then next is we take the diya, we welcome with the diya, just like somebody who's very close to us who comes, we want to greet him, how we greet him, and then we greet him with flowers, we wash his feet, then dry his feet, then we do chamar. So that's the first thing we can do, and that's the importance of Aarti, which I have started to realize. Is so important. Sometimes we just ignore it, and then obviously serving is the next part, like how we feed him, how we change his clothes, how we dress him, and so much of thought process and focus and concentration, everything goes in that little but hugely impacting activities which increase our concentration, making us think of him all the time. So I'll be brief here, Prabhuji, that's it.
And I would say, Prabhuji, we can do Aarti, but I won't be able to do Aarti at all. I will be like, most likely I will be crying.
Very nice. Both answers are very nice. Look, here it said, you have to oblige him by your love, by your service. So what you said, Aarti, is a form of service. Feeding him is a form of service. Massaging his feet is a service. Obeying him is a form of seva. Where everything, anything, even the breath that we're taking, the breath that we're exhaling, our very existence is for its pleasure. My dear Mahaprabhu, what is it that I can do? Please tell me, what is it that I can do? What is it I can do to make you and your devotees happy? That's all. We won't sit idle. हाँ अभी भगवान दिख गया तो मेरा पूरा जिंदगी सफल हो गया. No, it is activity based. So even when we are crying out of emotion, that's that joy in seeing Mahaprabhu. You could be dumbfounded. You could be struck with wonder. Paralyzed, just that's one of the spiritual symptoms. What is that? That's love. So it is all, everything is seva. And we have this opportunity, Prabhu, Mataji, in this material world, in New Jersey, in our own homes, in our temple in Plainfield, at our workplace, literally everywhere we have this opportunity to make Krishna and Krishna's happy. All we have to think is, मैं जो कर रहा हूं, मैं जो सोच रहा हूं, how will it make Krishna and Krishna's happy? How? The words that I'm speaking, the thoughts that I'm thinking, the actions that I'm performing. We hear, right? Amrish Maharaj used his legs to go to the temple. We are using a car. Okay, legs are now replaced by car. And our legs, we use it in dancing in Kirtan. We use it in pulling the Rath Yatra. It's coming up on 14th, by the way. So this is what it is. Everything is, just keep in mind the central. Keep asking yourself what it is I'm doing, what it is I'm thinking. All the time, keep reminding yourself. Then automatically it will become second nature to us. They say now, what the mind thinks, you become. Thank you, Prabhu's, Mataji's. If there
Thank
is
you, Prabhuji.
question.
You make me like the moment you ask the question, you make me into a different world. I was imagining if God is there, what will I do? So, it's like totally I was freeze for 2 minutes, and I was not even able to answer your question. What exactly? You have in different world. You really, this question hit like thinking really God is coming, and thank you so much. It's a very good feeling today. Thank you.
Yeah, and please nurture this feeling, jo aapko aaya hai, and just keep this seva. And seva is not, literally whatever we are doing can be an act of devotional service. An activity per se is neutral. What makes it karma, akarma, or vikarma is the cause, purpose, and for whose benefit it is. If it is for my benefit, mera swarth hai. Mera means my family, my country, my religion, my, I. Then it is karma. We are trapped. It could be something altruistic. भूखे को मैंने खिलाया, नंगे को मैंने कपड़े पहनाया, जो बीमार है उसको मैंने हॉस्पिटल में किया. I built a hospital, dharamshala khola, this, that. Fine. Better than hurting somebody, but all bodily level. And anything on the bodily level will incur karma. So it is basically, but the same thing, we do it as Krishna conscious act. We cook prasadam and feed people. That prasadam is for the soul. Body is secondary. Body is the ancillary benefit. So a person who goes and cooks, Jai Prakash Prabhu is cooking. His seva is through cooking. He has a talent, cooking. Krishna has given each one of us a talent. Dog has the greatest sense of smell. We don't have that. Eagle has the sense of sight. We don't have that. So each prani has a special ability. And amongst us human beings with our higher intellect, each one of us has a certain talent. There's no person who has no talent. Another reminder that we should always value people. We can always value people, no matter who they are. Simply because they are sparks. They are part and parcel of Krishna, and that spark has great value. And that value could be used in service of Krishna. Bring him closer. Bring him closer. Like they say, someone who speaks Krishna Katha is doing service. Someone who listens to Krishna Katha is doing service. But the person who makes others listen or the person who makes others speak about Krishna is doing the greatest service. So when we are doing, whether we are doing prasad, someone is good at painting, someone is good at speaking, someone is good at poetry, someone is good at whatever, people relationships, whatever, singing, doesn't matter. Dovetail it. And the beauty is, you could also acquire so many skills along the way while doing seva. I can tell you, when we started this center, nobody knew nothing, Prabhu, nobody. Believe me, it was just grastis who got together. And the first Rath Yatra that we had on Oak Tree Road, 8,000 plates of chole puri, pulao, and raita. 16,000 puris we made, or 20,000, I don't even know. No idea. There were only two cooks, Savita Mataji, I'm saying, Savita, my wife, and Gundicha Mataji. We used to do the Sunday program, sink or swim. Somehow or the other, with Krishna's grace, things happened. Who knew? Who knew any planning? The first Janmashtami, 4,000 or 5,000 people, I don't even know how many, in Ukrainian church. We didn't know that food inspector comes last minute running around. Devkinandan Prabhu is going with a thermometer, because they come and check when you're distributing out to public. It has to be 160 Fahrenheit. Devkinandan Prabhu last minute went and got one food thermometer, and he's going and putting in every... we don't know this. How did he come to know? Krishna arranged. So what Bhakti Tirth Maharaj says is, when the desire to serve exceeds one's capability, हमारे में इतना ही बस है, but मेरे में इतना उत्साह है, I have so much enthusiasm to serve. Empowerment happens at that point in time. But what happens is, because of our conditioning, we look at convenience when it comes to service. We look at convenience. And this convenience, we cloak it in a blanket of practicality. Oh, I have other things also to do. I have to take care of other things. It's not that you're ignoring your other responsibilities to do service, because that also is an act of Krishna consciousness. If you say that I'm doing my job to take care of this family, which is Krishna's family, I'm a caretaker, that your act of going to job becomes a devotional service. But this is my wife, my child. And, you know, ये बड़ा होके डॉक्टर बनेगा, इंजीनियर बनेगा, settled हो जाएगा. Yes, very nice, great. Bodily, as you've done your job. What about his soul? So we have to be very, just be seva focus, whether it is in doing japa, whether it is cooking Sunday feast or Rath Yatra arrangements, or anything. And ask yourself, what more can I do? And if you genuinely ask yourself your question, automatically time management hote, and all other responsibilities also fall in place. Be hungry for seva. And that is what pleases Guru and Krishna, not how much we know. Then that jnana is just for the sake of jnana. In fact, it could be detrimental, because then it will become a show-off point for me. Hare Krishna. Thank you, everybody. Simeshwar Prabhu, over to you. It is 8 o'clock. I think Simeshwar Prabhu may be doing his DT service.
Yeah, back.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wonderful class. Nice points. So, dear devotees, anything you would like to add? Any questions or any comments or any concerns? Any discussions? Any realizations? It's time for, it's always good to have some understanding after the class, what spoken. So that way, speaker also feels that I spoke and made some sense.
Good one. I have to share this with the class for those who weren't there for the Japa retreat. There are, as I was telling, every person has value. Just in our congregation, we are so lucky. And we were so lucky to have Romapad Maharaj. One Mataji saw him for the first time, Anika Mataji, and she was sharing with me. She's saying, Prabhu, I couldn't follow fully what Maharaj was speaking because there was some audio sound problem. It was giving feedback and all that. So it was a little difficult trying to figure out the speech, the class. But she says, just by seeing Maharaj, I have never felt such a sense of calm and peace. Just the sight of seeing a devotee of the Lord. So this is what a person who has, realized, a self-realized soul, he sees Krishna within him all the time, him or her, all the time. And that radiates without even she couldn't follow what he's saying. But just that sight brings transformation. It brings transformation. And similarly, when Maharaj was asking devotees to share their realization, our own very own Simeshwar Prabhu, he mentioned at one Ekadashi, he did on Sunday it was 64 rounds. Usually we do 16 rounds, but the target was to do 64 rounds. So Simeshwar Prabhu was sharing with Maharaj that one Ekadashi he decided to do 64 rounds, I think. And the night before he prayed sincerely, asking for help, like, please let me do this. And that night, Srila Prabhupada came in his dream and he had a 10-minute conversation, or what seemed like 10-minute conversation with Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada was so happy and he was smiling. And this is what Simeshwar Prabhu carried with him. And the next day morning, he started his japa and he ended up doing 128 rounds. 128 rounds. And he was sharing his realization that at the end of it, how he felt. He felt in his spine as though there's that tingling and like an electric current. He was jumping. These bodily changes happen. And Maharaj was so impressed by it. He pleased just by sharing. So he did something which is pleasing Guru. He's not his Guru, but of course a Vaishnava, representative of Krishna. Pleased Krishna. Now we have such people amongst us. And each one of us has this potential to experience what Sri Simeshwar Prabhu has experienced and to do things. And I'm not just saying as japa. So many devotional services are available. So we have to, one is, respect is not just Prabhuji, Hare Bol Prabhuji, Ji, or saying Prabhu, Prabhuji, yes, by words, but more importantly, seeing the value in the person, that value. And when we see that value in others, our own value gets revealed. Seeing good in others brings out the good in us. I'm sorry, but these 3 days were awesome. Thank you. Each one of you is a gem. Each one of you is a gem. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just mentioned that, not to repeat that anywhere else.
No, not repeat. So I understand, Simeshwara, I knew Prabhu, it will make you a little uncomfortable, but just to bring about the awareness. And believe me, I had this realization with Simeshwar Prabhu. I meet him every week. I see him every day, on our Bhagavad Gita Sanghas. And we tend to take things for granted. It's not that because somehow familiarity, there's a saying in Hindi, of course, it's a little crude, ghar ki murgi dal barabar. Like, murgi is supposed to be a very delicacy in the material terms, and dal is something very ordinary. So similarly here amongst our own Sangha, such special people But we all are making these classifications. Oh, he's not doing any service. I'm doing more service. All he does is come, eats prasad and goes. Arey Baba, that is also service. Eating prasad is also a service. What is it that I can inspire him to do more? That we'll never think. So it is just we need to, and I realized I didn't see this. And of course, your humility, you don't want to share it, because it would make you feel awkward. And this forum was the right thing. Maharaj asked you. So we need to build these relations beyond just the surface level. I firmly believe that, and I'm available to everybody in whatever way I can, serve you and get your association. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Back to the class. If someone has a question or a comment, or we can bring it to a close. Thank you.
Anybody else? Any questions? Anything you would like to add? No questions at all. I believe Prabhuji did a good job.
All goes to Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dharma Prabhu. Very nice class, Prabhuji. As usual, Prabhuji giving so nice presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you. Jai Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, always to Srila Prabhupada. It was a wonderful, wonderful class, very motivational, very, very touching, very, very motivational class, Prabhuji. I liked it so much. Thank you so much for this class.
Thank
Hare
you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Very nice. Yeah, that's always recommended that, how do you feel the class? It's always good to give some good feeling to the speaker. Otherwise, speakers feel that, did I do a good job? Whether it is communicated, whether it is understandable, those things. It's always good. Some comments, always questions are always good. As per the Bhagavatam, 3 people are getting purified. There is a Sangha, there is a Katha. Definitely the speaker gets purified, no doubt. Then the hearer also get purified, no doubt. And out of all this, who is very sincerely hearing and asking question to clarify gets more purification because of very attentively heard. There was a very nice pastime in Bhagavad Mahatmya. That the story of Gaukarna and Dundukari. Many of you know that. Dundukari was very impious and evil person. Brother was, Gaukarna was very pious. Somehow his Dundukari's wife, he had 5 wives, killed him. And he became not liberated. He became ghost and wander around and giving troubles to others. Being Gokarna was very pious, he could understand that what is happening around him. So Gokarna decided what to do. He did his Radha, still didn't help. So he was praying and asking and even seek what to do. And it's all reached up to the Goloka, even sun god Surya Bhagavan mentioned that hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is the only way that he can get liberated. Otherwise, there is no way. Gokarna arranged a beautiful Bhagavad Saptah. Gokarna tied Dundukari's soul into a bamboo, and there were 7 knots tied into that bamboo. And Gokarna arranged this Bhagavad Saptah and started to recite Srimad Bhagavatam. One day, is over. The first note is broke. Second day, second note. The seventh day, the seventh note is also broke, and this time a Viman, a plane, airplane came along with a beautiful arrangement to bring this Dundukari back to Krishna. So Gokarna and everybody was around. They were all saintly great people, pious people. They were also listening Bhagavatam. Gokarna asked, we were also reciting, we were also hearing, and all these souls were hearing. Why we are not having liberation? Why only Dundukari got liberation? So then this Vishnuduta said, Dundukari was very attentively hearing because of he was in need, had to come out of this pathetic condition, no body but all this other feeling. He was in such a distress condition and he was put all his efforts to listen Srimad Bhagavatam very attentively every day. And he got liberation. Then Gokarna arranged again. So this time the Viman took Dundukari back to Golok Vrindavan, Vishnulok Vaikuntha. So Gokarna arranged again to have Saptah. This time everybody is so attentive, so listening and so much in meditation. So after these 7 days, again the Viman came and took everybody back to Vaikuntha. So it's very important, our attention, our focus, our heart, our soul, everything surrender unto the Lord. Definitely we will also attain liberation. The problem is forgetfulness, ignorance, attachment, all these things. It takes us away from Krishna. So we are somewhere else. Even if class goes on, we are doing something else. Yeah, so nice. These are wonderful, wonderful sections of transcendental gems classes. Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. Those who are serious, they'll definitely get benefit. They'll be benefited.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanvat Pranam, all glory to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhuji, you read my mind. I was thinking about it, like listening attentively and then retaining what we are listening. So, in terms of that, I think there's a struggle. So, we listen attentively. I'm talking about myself. I listen attentively. So I understand what is discussed in a current class. And then tomorrow, when tomorrow comes, I forget what I heard yesterday. Then I have to, when we start the next verse, for me, it's like a beginning. I start from scratch. Though I remember just the basic point that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead and we are his servants. That's our constitutional position, like the basic points I remember. But what we discussed in detail about that specific verse is not retained unless we sit seriously and take notes. That is the struggle that's going on, Prabhuji. So I think that's, you mentioned rightly about the forgetfulness. I think that comes with it. I'm not sure, Prabhuji, but if any tips, will definitely would appreciate, Prabhuji.
Purity is the force, Mataji. When I remember there was a time when I just hear the Bhagavad Gita verse a couple of times or something like that. I could by heart the Bhagavad Gita verses and I could repeat that for a day and things like that. Yes. So, but when get into the life and yug work and things like that, so much of what is called impurities comes upon us. This was Prabhupada Maharaj was saying the same thing. Gurujan Prabhu said, Actually, our contaminations, impurities upon us is somewhere around like 3 miles long, 3 miles thickness. Can you imagine 3 miles of thickness of? And this was exactly we, Ashish Prabhu and myself was also discussing on the other day. I said half a kilometer. The same day, same noon, I said to Ashish Prabhu that yes, we have these impurities at least half a kilometer within us. And after that, Robert Maharaj said, yes, Burijam Prabhu mentioned that it's the 3 miles of long or thickness of impurities that we have. So because of that, anything which goes doesn't get through. We just peripheral. We just hear it, and then it just goes away because of the thickness of our impurities. It doesn't penetrate to our soul, our heart, chitta. So we are all mind. We are all mentally putting all our mind into it, but we are not putting our heart into it. That's a big difference there. You have to put heart into everything, the feelings and emotions. That is why, when we put our heart, then the feelings and emotions comes, tears comes. We never forget that, something has emotion, something has heart into it. When we put all the mind, okay, then heart is somewhere else, or because of the impurities, it's stuck, it's within the deep. So we don't actually throw it. So yes, Chedodarpanamarchanam. How? Our very focused attention throughout the day. You will see that, when we were chanting the holy name on Sunday, just chanting since morning till evening, how much it clears up our consciousness. Very much it clears up our consciousness. And then whatever you hear, everything is very pure. Everything goes into the heart, everything goes in very clearly. But after 2 days, you go to the work and you engage in your busy schedule and things like that. Now all this material energy comes upon us. Then, things changes. Consciousness changes. So like that, our life is also like that, Mataji. So we have billions of lifetimes of impurities. It's just covering us, covering our heart, covering our soul. And it's very difficult. So that's why Krishna conscious process is simple, but practicing is very difficult because of our impurities. So purity is the force. So we have to put all our efforts. Still, it's very difficult. Unless we put all our efforts, our body, mind, and soul, body, senses, and mind, intelligence, all needs to be in one line. So that's why Dhampad Maharaj was showing a picture, a castle that has different doors, and all doors are on one line. So when all these doors are on one line, then only we can enter through, like that. Our body, our senses, our mind, all in one line, focused to serve Krishna. Then we can, things can come through to our heart, our soul. Otherwise, if one door is closed, our senses are engaged so much, that door is closed. Mind is engaged so much, that door is closed. Body is engaged and so much in the material, the door is closed. Then we put little opening, that's all we have. 90% of our senses, mind, body is engaged for so many material things. Only a little portion. That's why we forget, because of it's not there. And Krishna says, I am, from me comes knowledge, from me come remembrance, from me come forgetfulness also. So how much we attach to him, that much will, we remember. That's the real consciousness we need to have. That's why Srila Prabhupada put this word Krishna consciousness. So unless and until we have Krishna consciousness, then it is, we have to, maybe we may be Krishna conscious 90-10 or 80-20 or 70-30 or 60-40, 50-50, or then Krishna consciousness 60 and 40. Krishna consciousness 70 and 30. This is the way this goes. Then our mind are purified and we'll be completely purified. We'll be completely conscious of Krishna. That's the time really, and this is possible only by the process of devotional service and bhakti. Gradually, like we clean. Remember Jagannath Maharaj in the journey home, the book. Maharaj very beautifully mentioned this. Maharaj was traveling to India and traveling a lot from Egypt to walking, right, to India. Somehow reached Egypt. From there, Maharaj was walking to India. Many months it took. Maharaj didn't get a chance to take bath. The debt accumulated. The debt accumulated like anything. And somehow Maharaj reached to a householder. An householder saw Maharaj and hairs are grown up and nails are grown and mustache and beard and so like a different style, different look, and completely dirt like a Maharaj became completely darkened because of the dirt. Cannot say that who is this person. But somehow this householder was a little compassionate and asked to take bath. Maharaj was laughingly saying, Maharaj then also repeated this in one of his lecture. Usually when Maharaj speaks, it was so nice to hear. Maharaj was laughingly saying, and somebody was there also, they are also trying to remove the dirt from the body of Maharaj in such a way that putting and rubbing and, scratching, and it took 3 hours. It took 3 hours in the shower that just to see that the skin actually, in reality, it was dried up like anything, Took 3 hours at least to make it decent, kind of. Then it's also further took bath and it took 3.5 hours that to just to, clean up that dirt from the body. Is that why Maharaj mentioned that? It's a very good example because we are all accumulating dirt in every lifetime. In every lifetime, we are accumulating so much of dirt in our consciousness. Like a fire covered by a, that's called ashes or smoke. Fire is there, it's very dormant. So then think about our conditioning. So what, unless and until we put conscious effort, we cannot get through. It's very, so that's what we need to do. That also, that's why a yogi, the Bhagavad Gita says that a yogi should be very careful, very careful what he does, what he speaks. And the most important thing, and Arjuna asked this question to Krishna, how a transcendentalist speak, how a transcendentalist or a yogi, talk or do his activities, do his things. Krishna very beautifully answering this into the 2nd chapter, Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says that a transcendentalist never attached to any material desires or selfish desires or activities. Will be free from all these contaminations and conscious efforts. Always put whatever the day is actually for the common people, that is for night for that yogi. Whatever a night for the common people is for the day for that yogi transcendentalist. That's why, devotees pretty much, they don't talk unnecessarily. They don't have, unnecessarily association. They don't do anything, thinking of, things like that. They have a very wonderful lifestyle. So that for what? To come out of all these contaminations and purify ourselves so that we can all situate in such a very, transcendental platform and then become a yogi or become a, devotee of the Lord. Yeah, devotional service is the ultimate of everything. Yeah, but all this yet that efforts, enthusiasm efforts, we should have conscious effort. conscious effort for everything. Then gradually we come to that, and then purifies us, and we get the purification, and then we see clearly, like a mirror is covered with the dust. We don't see anything. We don't see our reflection. So when we clean up, we see our image. So like that, then we see everything. And Krishna, when Krishna says, now when we hear about Krishna, how many devotees will come for and join? No, very less. And but when you say about something, some celebrities coming, how many people will go there? So this is the shift, material shift and spiritual shift. When a person is more attached to Krishna, their more priority is Krishna. Person is attached to the material things, their priority is all the material things. That's the difference. So when we are more conscious of Krishna, and our conscious effort to be with Krishna is the key. So we should practice. That's what we call sadhana. So we should practice. So when we practice, then gradually come to the stage, and we will, progress in our stage, and we come to the stage of next level of, bhava and prema, and it's all manifest. And this is very true. Yeah, I mean, that's what is happening, Mataji.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. Very beautiful answer. That really helps. So we'll just continue to focus, and I think someday I'll start remembering stuff. Thank you.
Conscious effort, and the difference between a devotee and a non-devotee. Anybody knows what is the difference between a devotee and a non-devotee?
So like a devotee have that the gratitude to Krishna, and the
Okay.
non-devotee also like they just not recognize it. But Krishna, for Krishna perspective, there is no difference. He supplying the necessity for both. But Krishna says that who remember me, I remember those.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Anybody else? The difference between a devotee and a non-devotee?
Prabhuji, a devotee dovetails everything for Krishna, and a non-devotee does everything for himself.
Yeah, wonderful. Very nice. Yeah, the non-devotee cannot distinguish, cannot separate, or he cannot differentiate what is spiritual and what is material. He see everything is material. The devotee can differentiate what is material and what is not material. So that's the difference. So like Srila Prabhupada says that from the far, the sea is very beautiful. Non-devotee, always likes that. The devotee, when he goes understand what he see, and he can see that it's also dangerous and there is restrictions. Non-devotee see everything through one eye. Yeah, this is for myself, this is for me. Devotee sees the differences in every aspect of their life. So then he differentiate. As if I go to a sangha, okay, is it good for my spiritual progress, or is it good? If I do anything, is it good for me or not? If I do something, if I talk something, if I think something, if I remember something, always that differentiation is there. Is it related? Is it connected with Krishna? That's the difference between devotee and non-devotee. Non-devotee never thinks any of those things. For him, everything is either dark or light. But devotee can separate this. It's like a Hamsa. Hamsa has a very, very great quality. Anybody know what is the quality of a Hamsa? Yes, one?
Yes, Prabhu.
It's like milk and water.
Exactly. Yes. The Hamsa can separate. If we mix with milk and water, the Hamsa can separate the milk and water. So that's the difference between devotee and a non-devotee. Devotee can separate everything. So that's what is we need to practice. So devotee should see Krishna in everything, but non-devotee see matter in everything, or their own material benefits and everything. But devotees see Krishna in everything, and he would separate that out from that matter. So that's what is we need to practice in our life. Yes, we can do everything, but we need to see Krishna in everything. Krishna is in the eyes of, through the eyes of Krishna, or through the what is called Krishna consciousness. Yeah, wonderful. Okay, is anything else?
Hari Bol Babu, Dandavat Pranam. So, but I have the questions, but in this topic is related to the bhakti. It is very higher thing. So I cannot ask that questions right now. Other day I'll ask.
Yeah. Okay. So Murdananda Prabhu, back to you.
Thank you, Prabhu. So we can bring it to a close, Prabhu. No one has any questions or any discussion. It's now 8:32.
Okay. Anybody else? Anything to add? Okay, so let's conclude then. Thank you, Murdananda Prabhu. Such a wonderful class. Excellent. Very good. So let us conclude. Let's pay our obeisance to all the assembled Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. Vancha kalpadarubhasya. Patitanam
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Nanda Godi Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Gaura Premanande.
Hari Hari.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you,
Hari
Amritananda
Bol.
Prabhu.
Hare
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Thank you. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.